Hi, I'm Devin with Fabnik, and today we're going to be assembling one of our prototype Horween watch straps. Today we're assembling the NATO strap, but the assembly process for both the split and simple straps is similar. So this is everything that comes with the kit. We have the hardware, we have needles and thread, we have the Horween leather, a burnishing tool, beeswax for burnishing, two Q-tips for burnishing, and some gum tragacanth. We'll also be using scissors, but we assume you have those with you. The first step in the process is burnishing the edges of the leather. Now this is an optional step, but it gives a nice professional look to the edges of your leather. The first step we're going to perform is burnishing, and the primary burnishing agent that we're going to use is this. It's called gum tragacanth, and we include it in one of these little stopper bottles. It doesn't really need to be in a stopper bottle. We'll probably change that for the final product, but this was a way to deliver it. We then take the Q-tip and get a liberal amount on, which will then apply to the leather. So we apply the gum tragacanth to the edge of the leather, just working on a small portion at a time. And once it's applied, we'll bring in our burnishing tool and find the channel that is about the thickness of our leather. So that looks like the thinnest channel here. And we just rub back and forth, holding the leather firm with our other hand to give some stiffness to it, since this is only one width of the leather. And once it's dry, we'll just reapply with some more gum tragacanth. And what we're doing here is both wearing down the edge fibers of the leather and kind of melding them together a little bit. And for each section, I'll keep applying the gum, getting some more from the bottle as I need to, until I have a relatively smooth finish that I'm happy with. Again, this is an optional step. You can skip it all together, or you can spend a lot of time doing it and get a really nice finish. It's really up to you. What you'll tend to see on very high-end leather goods is that they have a really nice burnished finish that, unlike edge paints or something like that, won't flake off over time. So I think I'm just about happy with how this edge is looking, and I'm going to go ahead and apply that to the rest of my strap and come back so we can move on to the beeswax. So I've spent about half an hour burnishing all around the edge of the strap. Might be a little bit hard to tell, but the sides are a little bit lighter. They're a little bit smoother than they were before. You can spend more or less time doing this than I did. You could spend less time and just be a little bit faster. You could spend more time and get a smoother edge. But what we're going to do next is finish the burnishing with what's kind of a polishing step, and we do that with beeswax. So holding it as we did before, we rub some of this beeswax on the edge. And again, we're just going to work with a small portion of the strap at a time. So we have some beeswax on there. Then we'll bring our burnisher back out and rub that in. This will create a nice kind of polish, a finish on the edge. And for each length, I'll probably apply this a couple times just to get a fair amount there. This should be a little bit faster than the burnishing step, because you're not really burnishing it as much now as you are just sort of doing a final polish. And I'm just going to continue around the strap, finishing this just like I did with the burnishing. So I've spent about 10 more minutes with the beeswax and the burnisher polishing up our burnished edge here. Again, this is an optional step, but I think that it adds a nice professional look to the edges of the strap. Next, we're going to start stitching up the strap, and to do that we need 12 inches of thread for each set of knots. So we'll just start with our thread, and because our card is 3 inches long, one rotation is 6 inches, so we'll just do that twice. So we'll do 1 and then 2. We'll bring it to the edge and cut it off for about 12 inches. Next, we thread our needles with something called a bookbinder's knot. And we actually have a separate video that details how to do this precisely. But what I'm doing is basically threading the needle and then passing it back through the thread to lock it onto the head of the needle so it doesn't come off. And I'll just do that on both sides. If you have a side of your thread that's kind of rough, you can just cut that off to make it thread a little bit more easily. And as you can see, we're actually threading both sides of the thread here. On all of the straps, you can see that the holes for the thread come in these sort of sets of 4, and each of those is going to hold in one of our strap keepers. For the NATO strap, we actually have an extra set of these at the end, so I'm going to start with that first. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll put the strap keeper in, and this will just be folding over and keeping that at the end. Once I've done that, I will take one of my needles and pass it all the way through both holes, just like that. Bring it all the way through. And I'll try to roughly make those needles even so that there's the same amount of thread on both sides of the strap. I'll then pass that through again. And that creates the first width of the thread on this side of the knot. What I'll then do is pass one of the needles through from the outside to the inside, but instead of going all the way through, I'll only come half of the way through, and I'll actually take it out to the inside of the strap. So at this point we have 2 stitches that are right next to each other. I'll then take the remaining needle that's still on the outside of the strap, come around, and pass it in again halfway so that it ends up on the inside of the strap. And now on this side, we have 3 nice stitches that are parallel and look good. I'll then switch it over to the other side and do pretty much the same thing. So now because these are starting on the inside, I'll come from the inside to the outside. And with the first one, I'll bring it all the way around and through. With the second one, I'll just bring it out as well. Now that we have the one wrap, we can just take these and wrap this one around. Just trying to get that in there. And again, that one's only going halfway through this time. Do the same thing with this. Come around, go through the outside, come in on the inside. And again, we have what ends up being 3 lengths of thread on both sides of the strap. We'll then finish it off with a simple square knot. So this can stay on the needles, and we'll just put this one. So the way I remember it is left over right, and under and through. We'll pull that tight. And then right over left and under and through to make a nice square knot. And I'm just pulling this tight on the inside of the band. Then cut those off. And just tuck the threads beneath the band there. So you have a nice, good-looking stitch on both sides of the band. With that first keeper done for the NATO, what we'll do, and this is actually where we start on both the simple and split straps, is we'll find the long hole for the prong of the buckle, and we'll fold it in half there. Then what we'll do is start tying our knots, working from the inside out. So what I've done is continue the knotting pattern 4 more times, again moving from the inside to the outside, inserting the strap keepers where they're needed. The final step in the process is going to be to put the buckle in place, and this is after you've done all of your knots. So we'll put the prong in the middle, send the spring bar through that. You just kind of have to feel your way around, make sure it's gone through. Lift that up. And let's see if we can get this in. There we go. And the spring bar tool really helps with this step. There we go. Now I'll just get the watch face and complete our strap. And this is going to be a little bit different for the simple and split straps, but for the NATO band, we will put our watch face on by threading the band behind the spring bars. It's just a little bit tight here with our prototype leather. And then through the strap keeper here at the end as well. And there we go. A nice Horween leather NATO strap. Thanks for watching.